Chairman Lips, Vice Chair Holmes, Ranking Member Russo, and members of the Health Committee, thank you for allowing my testimony today. Thank you as well to Representative Gross for sponsoring this very important bill. My name is Michele Krinsky, and I am a registered nurse from Cincinnati. 3.5 years ago, in November of 2017, I was terminated from my place of employment for declining a flu shot. At that time, I had been an RN for 35 years, 29 of those years at the same hospital in the same unit that I was terminated from. Because of my vegan ethics of non-harm and a prior adverse reaction to the flu shot, I submitted a conscientious/religious religious exemption in the fall of 2016. Halfway through flu season, I was told my exemption was denied and that exemptions would no longer be accepted in my unit. At that time, I was given an ultimatum to get the shot or be fired. I scheduled a meeting with my manager and nursing administration to explain my ethics and reasons for concern. I asked if I could wear a mask for the remainder of flu season, which had always been hospital policy. I was told that this was no longer acceptable since masks did not adequately filter viral particulate. I now find that this statement quite especially ironic since we have just spent the past year requiring completely healthy people to wear a face covering whenever they leave their home. I asked to take a non-paid leave of absence for the remaining 2 months of the specified flu season. This was also denied. The choice was very clear: take the shot or be fired. There was no middle ground. The fact that I was being forced to take a biological product containing a list of questionable ingredients, as well as animal DNA, was very distressing to me, but I felt I had no other choice. I love my job, and financially we depended on my salary to help support our family. Against my better judgment and my intuition, I reluctantly took the injection. 5 days after receiving the vaccine, I woke with a high fever, body aches, chills, and a cough. Basically, I had flu symptoms, which then turned into bronchitis. I was off sick for 2 weeks. I was so frustrated that I had been coerced into taking this shot that had made me ill, someone who prides themselves with being well and proactive with their health. Fast forward to October of 2017. Once again, it was time to receive our annual flu shots. The staff was made aware that no exemptions would be honored. Take the shot or be terminated, period. I knew after 2 years of consecutive adverse reactions to this vaccine, along with a complete disregard for my ethics, I would no longer take the shot. At this time, I was completely unaware of my rights to file an exemption under Title VII of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Another meeting was scheduled with my manager to no avail. On November 17th of 2017, my position of 29 years was terminated. It didn't matter that I had been an exemplary employee with an excellent work record. Not one medication error, not one patient complaint in 29 years. I was known to be dependable and flexible, a compassionate, empathetic member of our team. None of this mattered. All that mattered was I was not willing to comply with a mandatory policy that I was not comfortable with. Within a 24-hour period, my nursing career, my income, my ability to save for my retirement, and my insurance benefits were gone. How is it okay that a hospital can take away your conscientious concerns, your ethical and religious rights to decline an injected biological product? Why is it up to someone else to make those determinations? Why is no not a good enough reason? None of this made sense to me for a product that has a 35 to 40% effectiveness rate on a good year. But after doing a little research, I quickly found this mandate has little to do with health and patient protection, but a lot to do with employee compliance and Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements. It's interesting to me how it always seems to come back to financial interest. The hospitals and the government never seem to promote true health. They only want to push a pharma product that has nothing to do with health, but everything to do with a multi-billion-dollar vaccine agenda. Honestly, I find it hard to believe that this discussion needs to take place concerning the COVID injection. How can anyone force an experimental injection that does not have FDA approval? It's only being given under emergency use authorization. A product that has absolutely no long-term testing, no liability, and in the first 5 months, according to the VAERS database that we have talked about on the CDC government site, there have been over 4,000 deaths and combined 200,000 adverse events and injuries. This amount of risk for a virus that has a higher than 99% recovery rate in the general population. I've always been a proponent of choice and informed consent, and I can tell you that true informed consent is not being given, and I can say that for being in the industry for as long as I've been. I'm only one of many healthcare workers that's been affected by mandated vaccines. After I was terminated, I received hundreds of messages and emails from nurses in similar positions, even pregnant employees calling me in tears asking for advice because they were forced to take a vaccine with complete disregard for the potential risk to their developing babies. For me, the loss of my job has caused a tremendous financial hardship for my family. We quickly went through my retirement savings just to maintain our home and the bills that needed to be paid. So many of my coworkers had concerns as well, but were fearful of retribution if they spoke up. Needless to say, the hospital made an example out of me. In conclusion, I'm very grateful for this much-needed discussion. We need legislation that would support an individual's right to informed consent in the workplace, as well as society in general. Whether or not to be vaccinated should remain an individual's right to bodily autonomy based on prior adverse reactions, religious convictions, and ethical or conscientious concerns. Representative Gross has said that this is a freedom bill, and she is so right. When we lose the ability to make our own health choices, we have lost freedom in the truest sense of the word. Anytime there's a risk involved, we must have honest, informed consent and the ability to make the most appropriate choices for ourselves and our families. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony and your story. I had heard of your story several years ago in our first periods of HB 193,
Right.
fairly young at that time. So I have certainly understood your story well, and I'm proud to see you back here today.
Thank you.
Committee, brief questions. Brief. Representative Gross.
Chairman Lips to Mrs. Krinsky.
Krinsky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Krinsky.
Krinsky, yeah.
That's right. In your 30 years in nursing,
35.
35 years in nursing, did you ever see a time when the staff transmitted the flu or any other disease to any place where you were employed?
No.
Thank you.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. Nurse, thanks for being here. And my question is in regards to the employees' interests in seeing you take that vaccine. Do you think it's because that they have an interest in you being a healthy person and not calling in sick? Or is it because they have an interest in, for instance, say, stopping the spread of the flu between, say, you and another employer, but between you and a patient? Or you may have implied, I think, in your testimony that it might have been the reason for maybe an agreement between them and the vaccination producer. What are your thoughts on
No, Medicare, Medicaid reimbursement.
what is the reason behind an employer sticking to that policy to the point of wanting to fire or terminate employees?
Well, I can say again, on a good year, 35 to 40% effectiveness rate is what they say for the flu shot. That effectiveness rate is not saying that you're not going to get it, but it's that amount of effectiveness for decreased doctor's visits. Not that you can't still get the virus and transmit the virus. Decreasing symptoms, just like the COVID shot, it's going to decrease symptoms, but not keep you from getting it or still transmitting it. We're professionals. We don't come to work when we're sick. The hospitals could really improve on allowing nurses to call in when they're sick and not penalizing them. That would be a huge step in keeping people well. Healthy people don't give viruses to other people, only if you're sick. And we have enough sense to stay home when we're sick. In the 29 years in the unit I was in, no one in that unit ever had the flu. And I must also say, to ever connect it back to a healthcare worker, when we have free and open visitation in our hospitals, and people are coming and going like a revolving door in the patient's rooms, how could you ever say a healthcare worker is going to give a patient a virus when they have so many visitations? I mean, to me, it's just, unless you put a guard at the front door and check everyone's vaccination status, which, I don't know, maybe it's going to come to that, but when I was working, free and open visitation for all patients without any kind of checking. So to say a healthcare worker is more apt to give a patient a flu when they're completely well. And I will tell you, in my case, I was the healthiest, I will say this, the healthiest person in my unit. I live a vegan lifestyle. I eat a plant-based diet. I exercise, get sun, fresh air, take my supplements. I prided myself on being healthy, never calling in sick because I was never sick. I rarely got colds. So to almost penalize someone who prides themselves on wellness and staying well, but yet my coworkers that are sucking down the Diet Cokes and eating donuts, but they're lining up and getting their shot, then, that's okay. Not to say they're not going to get sick. And I can also tell you the week of the flu shots, and you can probably check with any nurse that you know, the week of the flu shots, half of our unit would be sick. Upper respiratory infections, coughing, hacking, calling in. Now, did the hospital ever track that? No. All they care about is the check mark that you got your flu shot. They don't care if the flu shot made you sick. They're not going to keep track of that. And I can tell you that from year after year after year after year of seeing it happen. And I can tell you that my coworkers dreaded the week of the flu shots because they knew they would get sick. I mean, sick to the point of wheezing, coughing, needing to go to the ER for chest x-rays because they had whatever respiratory infection they got from receiving that injection. So what, they maybe don't have the official flu, but they had various other respiratory illnesses that they could as easily infect their patients with. But you also get penalized when you call in. So the hospital could really improve in that way to keep people well.
Ms. Krinsky, thank you very much for being with us today and sharing your testimony. I was concerned about your story when you were terminated, when we did 193, and I remain concerned about your story of, I think the thing that upset me at that time was the same very hospital was advertising for nurses and trying to recruit nurses and yet letting quality 29-year nurses with a perfect file this big, a foot high of commendations go. So thank you very much for sharing with us today.
Thank you.